Hello everyone and welcome back. Today we're going to be talking about the Beastmen. Now, I know some people are going to be saying, just from the title alone, no. But hear me out. Because while the Beastmen have been very much getting a lot of attention during Warhammer 3, some would even say that they are the true winners of Game 3, getting a bunch of new units every time a Chaos DLC appears, or even sometimes a Kislev DLC. There are still some things lacking for them, particularly extra character choices, legendary heroes, they're still missing one. And we do know that Creative Assembly are going to start experimenting with smaller style DLCs. This could actually help out quite a bit, so let's talk about that today, as I think something could be done here. But before that, a big thank you to our sponsor, Instant Gaming. Instant Gaming is a platform where you'll be able to buy video games at discounted rates. Loads of ones that have just recently released. It looks like September, October, November are going to be stacked with video games. Like seriously, so many things are releasing. So it might be a good idea to get yourselves a nice discount. Dying Light Beast, for example, is 22% off. I've been streaming that and I will be streaming that again today. You can get Borderlands 4 for a really hefty discount. There's definitely loads of different titles to pick from. Not only that, but we do have a giveaway going on. Win the game of your choice. All you have to do is click on the link in the description below, sign up. You don't even have to make a purchase. This is a company I've been working with for a fair amount of time now. I quite like working with them. I use their services too. If you decide to make a purchase using my special link in the link below, by the way, it supports the channel at no extra cost to you, which is pretty damn cool. Again, a big thank you to Instant Gaming for the sponsor. It's been a really good working relationship so far. And now let's return to our regularly scheduled programming. Alright, so there are 4 playable legendary lords for the Beastmen, most of which are kind of the same. This is a big reason why I want to think about a possible DLC in the future, because 1, it could introduce a new character, maybe even 2, we'll talk about the formatting of the possible content a little bit later on. But 2, it could also mean that we could have a DLC / rework at the same time. Well, not really a rework, but more so of an update, just to kind of make things a little bit better for the Beastmen. One thing that kind of bothers me is if you look at their start positions, they're all pretty much in the same central region, right? You got Taurox there in the Dark Elf lands, but Malagor, Morgar, and Kazrak are pretty central to each other, which yes, makes a perfect sense for a lore perspective, but we do know that Beastmen could be found pretty much everywhere around the world, and I think it's about time that we had one maybe in Cathay or in the Mountains of Morn, just to kind of have a different start position. I think the problem with like Kazrak, Morgar, and Malagor is they're way too close. So once you've played one, there's really no reason to go back to it. There's also the case of like they're all pretty much identical. Sure, they've got some stuff that makes them a little bit different. Malagor being a spellcaster, Morgar being fantastic for just passive damage. There is no reason to play one after you've played the other. Taurox has a brand new campaign, obviously, thanks to the DLC that introduced him, so he plays very differently. The replayability is definitely there. So before we get into a DLC, we could see stuff that could be changed overall for the Beastmen, so let's talk about it. Alright, so we need to talk about a few things regarding units and unit camps. First up, they need to start kind of fixing this area up. Combining, say for example, all the different types of Minotaurs would be great, because it just serves to kind of slow down for the Minotaurs. Same thing as putting the Cygor and Gorgon together. They're supposed to be kind of like the same thing. It would just be nice to consolidate them, make it a little bit easier for Beastmen players to be able to pick it up. It's not really so much of an issue for the AI, mostly because the AI doesn't recruit much. Hopefully that gets fixed too. Alongside, I would say maybe if things go the way I see it going, another section specifically for the God Touch stuff. Because right now we have, 3 different just areas there for Khorngors, Zangors, Pestigors. We're likely going to get Slangors too, because it just kind of makes sense. So it would be great to be able to have just separated areas for Slaanesh, Tzeentch, Khorne, and Nurgle. We do already have another Tzeentchian unit. This is the Centaurs of Tzeentch. And at some point, hopefully, knock on wood, Creative Assembly will remember the Cornitors are still not being added to the Beastmen. But I wouldn't be opposed to, say, some reskinned units for more God Touch stuff. You never know, even for free, because every now and then we do get a free unit. The Beastmen were in a pretty weird place, and they couldn't really take marks prior, but then they could, right? And yes, technically we do have some mark stuff with the Pestigors, Zangors, and blah, 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 blah. But I'm saying, like, wouldn't it be cool if we had a marked version of the Gorgon, for example. We have one as a Regiment of Renown, but what about a standard unit? Or even just more Minotaurs, Noble variants, Tzeentch variants, stuff like that would be kind of cool just to give these guys a proper end times feel once we get to the proper end times content. Speaking of which, it would be kind of cool if we ended up getting something like a mark system for the Hearthstones themselves, being able to dedicate them, so that means that you could get cheaper units in certain parts. Even if it's not just for like the gods, maybe it's just like, oh, this is more of a Minotaur Hearthstone, a Gore Hearthstone, a Centaur Hearthstone. It does get expensive to use the Dread, and yes, Dread is easy to come by, but it would be nice for a quality of life thing. Again, doesn't really matter for the AI stuff because like the AI doesn't know how to handle the Beastmen, but it's more for the players. Let's talk about the characters now, because it's not really much that needs to change for the race. But Morga the Shadowgave is a character that I very much like. He's very, very strong, and he's very cool for the setting. The problem is that his campaign is centered around Chaos Spawn, right? But the issue is that you don't really have that many Chaos Spawn to play around with. There are 4 dedicated spawn. That should be recruitable by him, and him alone. I don't imagine unique mechanics coming in for certain characters. In fact, I don't imagine a lot of unique stuff happening. But it's really weird that the Chaos Spawn faction cannot use Chaos Spawn. There's also other spawn units that we've yet to see in game. Who knows if we might see them. But it'd be good if we could just get that all consolidated into Morga. Sure, it's not going to be the most interesting, but I imagine that the Shadowgave, one of the most powerful spawn to ever live, would attract Chaos Spawn of Slaanesh, Tzeentch, and you never know, in the future, one of my favorite models, the Gigantic Chaos Spawn. This isn't a new mechanic, but it's something that kind of fits with him. Sometimes you don't need a mechanic, you just need a little bit of flavor. Khazrak, on the other hand, I do believe needs a new mechanic, purely because he is one of, if not the most famous Beastmen character. Everyone pretty much knows of him, and what I feel could be done here is actually just to take on Alithanar's mechanic. As you are aware, Alithanar has a mechanic when it comes to assassination, right? Where you would send an assassin, or you just kill him off and stuff like that. I think that should be retooled for Khazrak, but you just have to go and attack a human lord. He'll always be focused around humans, Cathayans included, but the idea there is just, yeah, you go, you kill them, you get some bonuses, you get extra bonuses if you actually ambush kill them, because Khazrak was known very much so for ambushes. It'd be a good way to get extra dread, and you could get some faction-wide bonuses just to make him a little bit stronger. Again, giving you a reason to play the Beastmen again. It would be great if the AI knew how to play them a bit, but they struggle. They very, very much struggle. Malagor's a toughie, I'd say, going to find some fonts of power and stuff, but if they want to just keep him without any mechanics, just add a little bit of flavor. Some unique items could work out quite well that could only be used by the Great Bray Shamans, and that idea kind of pushes you to get more Spellcaster Lords, like really, really powerful items that would be kind of expensive. Hell, I would even say, you know, it'd be kind of nice to have like a pseudo-legendary lord. We've seen that with like the Vampire Coast and so on. For Great Bray Shamans, like a Coven situation, make him like feel really much like the Spellcaster Lord. The idea here is just some brief ideas. The Khazrak one I really like, and same thing as Morga. Malaga's a bit more difficult because, well, there's not really much to him. He flies, that's it. So as you can see, there's not really that much difference when it comes to some of the lords there. And in fact, when we look at the roster for the Beastmen, certain things are kind of lacking. We're not really a lot here with range units, which is kind of expected, but Lord choices, fairly decent. Hero choices are very, very empty, though. Hell, no legendary hero, which seems kind of odd, but this was during the DLC cycles before legendary heroes became more of a common thing. And it's also important to note that there's not really a lot of stuff missing. Like I said before, it's mostly just characters and maybe a Lord and hero option. Some units could make it in, but it's mostly done for the Beastmen unless they go into some deeper lore. Regardless of that, it's important to note that we do know the DLCs might be smaller now when it comes to Neferata. That's something that's been outright confirmed. Not Neferata, she was hinted, but more so that they're going to be working on some smaller DLCs. It could be the fact that future DLCs, just to kind of get them out faster, might not be the same format that we've seen, with the current format being Lord, Hero, Generic Lord, Generic Hero, 5 or so units, and a few Regiments of Renown. I could see it working in such a way that we might just see 2 or 3 units, but maybe an extra hero choice, maybe an extra lord choice. Hell, maybe they could do extra legendary characters if that's the case. Obviously, I'm not saying it's going to be very, very small, and hell, it could just be, for all we know, one side of the DLC. So if you look at, say, for example, Thrones of Decay, it could just be like if it was just Tamukan by himself. CA haven't really provided any context, and it's more the case of like right now they just said that they're experimenting. Hell, we don't even know if that it's even going to happen. Now, I don't know how Creative Assembly comes to working on the DLC, what costs the most budget. I do imagine Legendary Lords cost the most because there's a lot more to go for them. But it could just be the case that it's like, okay, look, we've got this great idea. It won't be that expensive to make. Let's see what can be done. Now, before anything, there are a fair amount of missing Beastmen characters, but I'm going to give you what I think could work as a DLC. I'm sure there's going to be people having their opinions. So going with a smaller format, this is what I could expect for a Beastmen DLC. People are going to have opinions, but this is kind of what I think completes them. Generic Lord, Centaur Lord. Generic Hero, Centaur Hero. I could see this working as the generic lord being, of course, like a fast skirmishing lord. Same thing with a hero. Maybe it could also be a bit of a buffer too, because we do need something on the lines of a battle standard bearer. A lot of races are getting that type of hero nowadays. It could separate the sub-races a little bit, so you're more incentivized to use Centaurs with Centaur lords, but you could still have them with your Doom Balls or your Beast Lords. Keeping with the theme, a legendary lord coming in being Gorus Warhoof. This means that we could end up with a character who is going to focus very heavily on skirmishing combat, not so much ambushing, but just getting around the enemy lines. It would be kind of cool. He's a big known character. Hell, he's so popular he's come back into the old world too, which I wasn't really expecting. He's outright mentioned when it comes to the Regiments of Renown that we've already got. The Sons of Gorus are already there. So I feel like, yeah, just having a named Centaur Lord means that we've got all the main types of Beastmen represented as playable characters, and he could easily start out in Grand Cafe. So that means that you've got one in every major continent. A legendary hero could come in, and I think here it could be something like Moonclaw, right? Something very, very unique, something very, very monstrous with his unique mount and so on. Well, keep in mind that the mount was never done in a model. There's just artwork for Moonclaw, but I feel like that could work out quite well. He's a character that a lot of people are kind of interested in, and I think it works out better. He's definitely a better choice than Ungrel Forhorn, for example. Then, getting in Slugtum. Yeah, Slugtum as another legendary hero. 2 legendary heroes for this pack. The idea here is there likely isn't going to be a lot of units. I could see a lot of units, but it would be at a massive stretch if they go into like Caprigors and stuff like that. Hell, I don't even know if they even still exist in the lore because they got mentions a few times and that's it. So 2 legendary heroes would allow for that to be a bit better, and Slugtongue, being something that we could expect with the Law of Nurgle, could then be recruited by Nurgle factions, right? That gives us 3 legendary characters, and I do want to stop 1 second because I know some people are going to be saying, well, Ungrel's a character, he's kind of useless, he's there for mutants, and we don't really have mutants in-game, so I very much doubt that we're going to get them. And same thing as Gorthor. There is no point getting Gorthor, the Chariot Lord, the Beast Lord, or whatever you want to call him. He's very, very cool, fantastic model, but, I mean, he does the same shit that Kazrak does. I'd rather go for a character that's going to be objectively a little bit different, and that means that in the future, you never know if CA do dedicated character packs. Yeah, fine, Gorthor comes in, but not at the expense of Gorus Warhoof, who is objectively more popular. Okay, now units. Here's where things get a little bit interesting, right? I would say we could get some sort of Centaur Bestigor, right? Like we have Bestigors, we have Centaurs, mix them up, give them additional hand weapons, boom, right? They're missing a blender unit. Right now you can get them with great weapons, you can get them with a shield and hand weapon, and you can get them with throwing axes, but it would be nice to see proper additional hand weapon, armor piercing types or anti-infantry types, so you can have them charging in from the side and hurting quite a lot. The Gigantic Chaos Spawn is something I want. Now I'm putting this here because it's something that I expect on the Slaanesh DLC, but there's also been that weird leak about the Slaanesh DLC about the Praeton. So if it's the Praeton actually ending up there, so far they've been right, which is kind of disappointing, more so on a security point of view than anything else, I would say then the Gigantic Chaos Spawn could work out quite well, and it could be available to the other factions too. One thing that Chaos DLCs do very, very well is that they kind of put the units in different areas, because just because this unit works here doesn't mean that it doesn't work there. The Khorne is a perfect example. I think the Khorne Gores are available to everyone. So Khorne as a monogod, Beastmen, and also Khorne Warriors for the Warriors of Chaos. It's nice to see that happening. Let's start looking towards some more unique stuff, because we can go into like the RPGs or even some further types of content. This is something that we know now thanks to the Tides of Torment for the High Elves. We know that they're getting water elementals. What if we got lake men for the beastmen? So lake men are kind of like frog amphibian type units. They can be found pretty much in Bretonnia, where a lot of beastmen are. They could be counted as a skirmisher troop, very good for just getting around, and also aquatic. Aquatic doesn't really have a lot of uses when it comes to Total War, but it would be kind of cool to see something very, very unique. I think a lot of people would love to see an interpretation of the Lakemen, I myself included, mostly because like they appeared in Warhammer Fantasy roleplay and that's it. Hell, if they want to do something really cool, give them bows too, right? We've all seen artwork of like fishmen with bows, so I think that could kind of work out. We are missing the Basilisk, and that's something that I'm kind of confused about, because I kind of expected this one out already. The Basilisk is a chaos monster. It's something that is found around the Empire and so on. Hell, it's found a lot of places around the world. I could see it being implemented, which would then mean you've got your second aquatic monster. I could see this happening. I think it's so good of a model, and I think Creative Assembly have actually shown that they've got a Basilisk model in like one of the old dev chats from 2, maybe 3 years ago. So it'd be good to get another large monster. I mean, Beastmen, big monster, kind of fits, right? It's one of those things that are missing, and I don't see this really fitting anywhere else. It'd be a shame not to get it. One thing that the DLCs have been doing very, very well is implementing stuff from the Monstrous Arcanum. Mostly because they were stupid expensive in the tabletop. Hell, well, they're still stupid expensive models nowadays, aren't they? Gotta love those yearly price rises. But, yeah, I mean, it's one thing that they've been doing very, very well here, and I think it would be very, very good to see that there. Finalize as much of the Monstrous Arcanum as possible. Hell, we even got some Incarnates, so why not this? Cool monster is cool monster. Give it access to the Warriors of Chaos too, and there you go. This time, the the Beastmen can benefit the Warriors of Chaos. Maybe even Slaanesh also kind of works. You know, it's about time that the Beastmen started paying back. And yes, I know that's not the most exciting thing, but this is where things would be a bit different to normal, conventional DLCs. I could then see them going, okay, let's do some marked versions of different types of Beastmen, so that way we can have the preparation for the end times, right? Marked Minotaurs for the other gods, Pestitors, which is a really weird name, some more Centigors, but like actually marked. Give them a proper reason to have something different. Go full end times, because I could see this being the build-up to the hypothetical end times DLC that like everyone's kind of hoping for. And it'd be nice just to see the Beastmen taking part in that too. There have been rumors of like the largest DLC possible for Warhammer 3 being the End Times, but I don't imagine the Beastmen being in there too. So I could see this being just like the build-up, and I think that's going to be kind of important. Neferata being her own DLC kind of feels like the build-up is going to happen. There's not really that much content, but it's more finalizing everything. I think the most important thing is just getting a small update to kind of fix up the small issues that the Beastmen have, more so Khazrak not really feeling like a legendary lord in that case, because he doesn't really have a lot going on for him. This is a thing, a lot of legendary lords in the game right now, they feel very, very unique, and there's a few outliers, very, very important characters in the lore which just have nothing at all. So I think something like this, bringing a bunch of like reskin units, getting the last little units in there too, would give them the send-off that they deserve. No more Beastmen content after that. I don't imagine that we'll see anything else. And that race can just like be put aside for other important ones. I could imagine small DLCs finalizing races and being done. But let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Let's start a bit of discussion. We had another power cut today. I'm not shitting you. So yeah. Fun times, delays. But after this video goes live, after a little bit after that, I should be live on twitch.tv/thegreatbookofgrudges playing some Dying Light. If you want to pop by, say hi, and see me scream. Because, yeah, there is a lot of cheap jump scares. It's a pretty good game though. But yeah, have a great one, guys. See ya.